Okay, so in today's video, we're going to take a look at an open-close activity. So this is the kind of activity you would see in part 2 of the Reading and Use of English section of the C2 Proficiency exam, the Cambridge Proficiency in English exam, CPE, as it used to be known. What do you have in this part of the exam? Well, you have a short text like the one you can see on the screen, with 8 gaps, questions 9 to 16, but there are no options like in part 1. Instead, you have to kind of read the sentence and think a little bit about what is missing, what word could we put in each gap so that the sentence makes sense, right? So this is really testing your grammatical ability, your grammatical understanding, I think. So we're going to have a look at this text, and it's called Neologisms, Creating New Words. Now, neologisms is, well, they're an interesting topic. It's an interesting thing to talk about. Maybe I'll look into that a little bit later. But in the meantime, for now, let's just get on with this task. So let's have a look at the example. To survive, language must evolve, yet it is resistant to certain forms of change, right? You're resistant to something, right? Okay, so the first sentence here then. Most new words sparkle briefly, comma, at all, and then fade away. Right, so what we want to say here in this second sentence is that a new word often comes into the language for a brief time. What normally happens is for a short amount of time, it's bounded around, people hear it, it's in the news, it's in the public, it's in the public's view, but then it just seems to disappear. But in commas there, it's sort of adding a comment to that idea that most new words sparkle briefly. Maybe not even that. Maybe they don't even sparkle briefly. So they sparkle briefly, if at all, and then fade away. Right. However, new words are necessary because as the world changes, must our vocabulary. So just in the same way as the world changes, our vocabulary has to change as well. So what do we want to say here? What word would we put in number 10? New words are necessary because as the world changes, so must our vocabulary, right? In the same way, so. Like the way in English we say, I think so. No? What do you mean? Well, so is referring to the thing that has just been mentioned, no? If you ask me, do you think Neuralink are going to implant chips in our brain in the near future? I think so. Yes, so referring to the thing that's just been mentioned in the briefest way possible. Okay, in a society, science seems to occupy the intellectual high ground. It is inevitable that vocabularies are continually being augmented. Right. Okay, technical terms. In a society in which, but it has to be one word. Science seems to. So instead of in which, we could say in a society where science seems to occupy the intellectual high ground, right? Yeah, we can refer to society as a place. So yeah, in a society where science seems to occupy the intellectual high ground, it is inevitable that vocabularies are continually being augmented, technically, in technical terms, right? In technical terms, I think. Suppose we have to think about what that sentence means. Well, in a society where science seems to dominate, it's inevitable that our vocabularies are constantly being augmented. Well, no, they're not being augmented in a technical way, are they? Is it in technical terms? I feel like I've done this exercise before. With technical terms, is it in or with? Augmented with technical terms. Augmented in technical terms. I don't know. Thinking about it, I don't think it... No, it wouldn't make sense to say in technical terms. No, it's not being augmented in a technical way. So, no. Augmented with technical terms, I think. Yeah, the language is being augmented. What with? With new words, with technical terms, because we have a culture that's dominated by science, right? So it'd have to be with, yeah. Okay. Possibly by as well. It's being augmented by something, by the technical terms which are augmenting it. So maybe with or by are both possible there. Okay. Novel items of vocabulary distress people for two reasons. They attest to phenomena we don't like, expect not to like, and their tone offends our sensibilities. So there are two reasons. They attest to phenomena which we don't like, that expect not to like. So it's not and expect not to like. So either we don't like them or expect not to like, right? So new vocabulary talked about things that we are unfamiliar with. So either we don't like them because they seem foreign to us, or we expect not to like them because they sound foreign to us, something like that. So I think it's or. And their tone offends our sensibilities, right? Okay. There is new about this aversion to neologism. As far as the 1750s. Okay, right. Yes. Okay, so I think we're saying it's not a new thing, right? There is nothing new about this aversion to neologism. As long ago as the 1750s, so as far back as the 1950s, a distinguished English lexicographer criticised the unnecessary words creeping into the language, right? So this is nothing new. So what does make a word stick? So what makes a word last longer in a language? First of all, it has to be widely adopted. So a lot of people have to use it, right? It also has to denote something of lasting significance, for it will only last as long as the phenomenon question. As long as the phenomenon in question, right? And to become embedded, it needs to generate derivative forms, right? So, yeah, obviously, a lot of people have to use the term. The thing that it describes has to be a thing that lasts a long time, obviously. I don't know. If you're talking about the autogyro, yeah, that's something that didn't last for a very long time, so people don't use it anymore, I guess. Teledirigibles, things like that. Blimps. I'm just thinking about flying objects at the moment, but well, whatever. As long as the phenomenon in question, yeah. And yeah, to become embedded, yes, there needs to be sort of a whole terminology around the word, right? I don't know, sort of like Google has now become a verb kind of thing. You Google something, means to look it up, basically. It doesn't literally mean use Google, though, yeah, it basically does. Yeah, so I think we've pretty much finished for today's video. An interesting one, I guess, the topic at least, neologisms. That's something we could look into in another video. I don't know. Do you want to influence the content of this channel? Why don't you click on the blue button under the video and have a look at that. Have a look at those options. Okay, I'll see you in the next one.